Welcome to Grow a Law Firm podcast. I have an amazing guest here with me. Alexandra Watkins is the chief executive boss lady of Eat My Words, which is a naming slash branding company that helps brands large and small come up with very cool names. She's also a best-selling author of Hello, My Name is Awesome book, and I am so excited to have you here. And here's why. As you know, my brand, Grow a Law Firm, works for law firms. I don't think there's an industry as a whole that is as bad at naming their businesses as law firms. I think they took their hint from like 17th century England, where it was like John Smith, the Esquire. And so now every or almost every law firm is named after the founding partners or the managing partners. And it's like, hello, it's 2023. Like you do not have to name your law firm after the last names because there's usually no brand recognition. And why don't you take over and talk about this?
Yeah, well, thank you, Sasha. It's great to be here. And yes, law firm, that's why we love naming law firms because there's so few that have creative names. So when it comes to trademark screening them, we always have a lot of luck because it's a wide open playing field, unlike a lot of other industries that are really saturated. So yeah, law firms, yeah, you're right. It used to be some states you have to use your name if you're a law firm, but most don't. And so we have named or renamed a lot of law firms and given them names that are more memorable, more evocative, and more appealing to the customers that they serve.
And from our standpoint, from marketing standpoint, we always find that if your name is Smith and Smith or Levinson Law Group or whatever it may be, um, you're not really doing yourself a favor with search, right? Because most people will not look for you by your brand name, by your law firm name. But if you practice, I don't know, family law and you name yourself, I think you're based in San Diego, right?
Yes.
So San Diego family law would do a lot better in Google than Watkins and Berson's law.
Yes, that is true. What that's kind of the easy way to do it, right? And if those names are available and search engine wise, absolutely, because that's what somebody's going to be typing into Google, San Diego family law, San Diego family lawyer. But if that's taken, um, the way I like to tell people to think of their name is, as an attorney, look at your name in a directory, right? It doesn't, if you're named after yourself or the managing partners, it doesn't say anything about who you are, what you do. Whereas if you, like we worked with a attorney who his practice is all around environmental law. And he also works with a lot of startups. So he was using a name and got interestingly he got an infringement letter, the dreaded cease and desist, right? What every brand owner fears. And so we rebranded him Terrain Legal. So Terrain says something about the environment, but also for startups, they're navigating this new terrain, right? So, and getting their foundational documents. So that's a name that, if you were a consumer and you were looking for an environmental law firm or even a business looking for one, and you just saw a list of attorneys, nothing's going to jump out at you. But if you see Terrain Legal, automatically that's going to say something about who you are and what you do.
What is the scientific process? I know that you've been at it for quite some time. I think you started with actually Gap naming their products back in the 90s. And then you worked for Ogilvy and Mather, or Mather and Ogilvy. I always mix them up, which is the second largest advertising agency company in the world. Right. So you've been at it for a while and you have a lot of expertise. Like, what's the scientific process of developing a great brand name for a law firm?
Okay, well, no science involved, so that's the good news.
It's all creativity.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I think some naming firms, they they use scientific processes and, computational linguistics, but consumers, regular people, we don't know linguistics, but we know we have emotions. And so we're looking for something that makes an emotional connection with us, not the linguistic meaning behind something. So, and lawyers, of course, all know Latin, and a lot of words are based on Latin. But if we're using Latin words or Latin phrases, we want them to be familiar to regular people. So our process is we have a client complete a creative brief. So they're going to tell us about their practice. They would give us the brand personality that they want to express in their name. Are they, well, I imagine all lawyers are, if they want to convey trust. I mean, if you're a lawyer, that I think automatically conveys trust, but or not, depending who you are. I like lawyers. I like lawyers. But if you want to convey, anything that about your, obviously playful, fun, maybe not, but approachable is a good one. So any personality trait that you want to convey in your name, that's good to know. Any themes that you want to explore. So like, with this environmental law, the great outdoors was, that was a theme that we looked at. So, fire is a theme that we explore a lot. Some people right now we're looking at science fiction for a client. So everyone wants something different, but coming up with some themes that you might find are rich and fertile for exploration. We're naming something in Texas right now, and they want the name to be evocative of Texas. And that was really easy. I put that into Chat GPT and got a lot of things there. So, and use Chat GPT 4 to on your brainstorming, because it can really help. So yeah, that's the beginning of the process. And then when we're working with someone, we generate usually 100 names in the first round, go through those, the attorney picks them. They'll often do their own trademark screens. Then we'll go to the second round based on the results from the first round and ultimately land on a name.
Do you usually work on brand revisions, like name revisions, or do you usually work on like first round, like just starting out?
Oh, wait, do you mean rebranding someone?
Yes, rebranding
Yeah.
versus a brand new brand.
Yes, and we've even rebranded something that we branded before because they outgrew their name. So yes, rebrands are one of my favorite things to do because the before and afters are so spectacular. So one of my favorites is a bank. It was more than 100 years old, and they were named First National Bank of Syracuse. They were in Syracuse, Kansas, though. So, Kansas, the people in these communities in Kansas, the small farming communities, they don't want a New York bank, and that's what First National Bank of Syracuse sounds like. So they wanted a name that was aspirational, that spoke to the fact that they help make people dreams come true. They funded a lot of agriculture, farms, farming equipment. So, and they were, it was generational wealth and, very involved in the community. So they wanted a name, and they were an award-winning regional bank. So they wanted a name that really evoked all of that. So we kind of summed it up in 2 words. So First National Bank of Syracuse is now Dream First. And that plays into making dreams come true.
Interesting. So I assume that the rest of their branding had to be realigned.
Yeah, they
to
redid
make
everything.
Sure that,
Yeah, in fact, we're working on naming their ATM machine right now, and I want to call it the Dream Machine because it's just perfect, right?
So interesting. So I wonder if you ever do any like follow-up on impact on the businesses that go through rebranding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. People tell us all the time how much better their customers like the names, that they like the names, because so many times we get asked to do a rebrand for 2 reasons. One is infringement, and the other one is that people are just frustrated with their name. So, or I guess 3, they've outgrown it. Like Dream First, that was some of that. But when the infringement ones are hard for emotionally, because on the client, because they didn't want to give up their name, they like their name, and then their question is always, well, can you come up with anything better? And we always do. So one was a app. It was an emergency, really popular app for emergency services. So if you found yourself in trouble, you could live stream. And this is, years ago, before anybody was live streaming or even knew what it was, but you could live stream your situation. So it was called Witness, but Witness was, they had some infringement issues, and then it was too much of the, it was too almost sounded too much like a crime was occurring, and it wasn't always about that. It was just that someone needed help too. So we rebranded it Parachute, because you can imagine these paratroopers like coming to the rescue. So that was a rebrand that they weren't expecting to like the name better, and they did. A lot of times we rebrand when someone's name has been frustrating for them and their customers. So if it's hard to spell, hard to pronounce, it's not, it's, apparent, at first glance, people don't know the meaning of it. So we worked on naming a education platform, and the original name was Edio, EDIO. And it's great if you have a short name, but it's better if you have but if you have a short name, it should be a good short name. And those aren't available anymore. All the domain names are taken. So we named it Head Rush, which was much more fun, and it passed my test of would a kid put the sticker on his skateboard.
Sure. Yeah, I always think about like law firms. None of the short names are available to most law firms unless they come up with some quirky, non-existent word.
Right.
So I always think about that, and I always I like simplicity. So I think about what is it that you do, right? What is your primary practice area? Hopefully, it's the only practice area that you're focused on, and then name it something so that your consumers, your marketplace, instantly understands what it is that you do. Because you used an example earlier where you said people would look at it and they'd be like, is that a bank from Syracuse, New York?
Yeah.
That doesn't resonate. So I always think about name it exactly what you do and who you do it for. And if you can succeed with those two, yeah, names are magical. But we
They
see them
are.
so rarely.
Yeah. Well, Grow, I mean, obviously Grow Law Firm is a great name. Yeah.
We put a lot of thought into it before we named it, because we wanted to make sure that everything this brand stood for was about growth for law firms. So we're like, what do we name it? And we kicked around bazillion ideas. And this one was the one that was most liked, most accepted, and most clearly understood, what it is that we do. Although there's still some confusion out there. Some people are like, are you a law firm? But no, we're not a law firm. We help law firm owners grow their law firms. They're like, oh, okay, got it. So probably not the most clear name, but the best one that we could come up with. But sometimes I see great examples of law firms naming, such as the Real Father's Rights. You know exactly what type of cases they do and who their clients are. I've seen the opposite of that, like the Real Mother's Rights, right? And you know exactly who they work for, and criminal defense and so many others where they speak exactly about what it is that they do or their main practice area. But interestingly enough, I think that well over 90% of law firms still to the day use their partners' names for naming, which I find to be a terrible idea because of one, it's not searchable. Two, what happens when you decide to sell your law firm?
Exactly. And it can be terrible. I mean, we worked with this client, Sherry, and Sherry was an original woman that was hand dipping chocolate, strawberries into chocolate. Sherry's Berries. It was famous. It was on the cover of in-flight magazines. That remember when you used to shop on the airplanes, like in the magazine, 3
I
times in
like
a
those
row.
catalogs.
Yeah, 3 times in a row she got on the cover of that. Like she was a brilliant marketing genius. She would send her berries to Barry Bonds, Halle Berry, like any celebrity with Barry in their name got their berries. She was a maverick. And she ended up losing her company through some board. With the board, she got kind of pushed out. And so now this company has bought, Sherry's Berries has been bought and sold a number of times. Her name is still on it, but the quality is terrible now. They chop off the top, so there's no longer that green stem, the little leaves, and she's just mortified because her name is still on it. So it does make it a lot harder to sell your firm. But when you have a brand name, like let me give you an example of, this is a small business, but this is one that everybody can relate to, and it can show you how much fun you can have with your brand. So lawyers can have fun. You guys know that, right? And ladies too. Her name was Lynette Hoy, and she is a fiery publicist. So playing off of that, we branded her Fire Talker PR with the tagline "Hot on the Press" because she was relentless. She calls herself the Fire Chief. She works in the firehouse. She has packages like Controlled Burn and Fire Starter. And she has a theme song, which is Fire by the Ohio Players. So when you have a theme and you have a brand name, you can really extend it.
That makes perfect sense. I think that lawyers, probably like most lawyers, at least those who I get to speak with, probably most of them would not be up for it because it requires a different mindset, very different mindset. And when you say like lawyers can have fun, they certainly have. But when you look at their websites and branding, everything is just so buttoned up. Like like when you look at pictures of attorneys, it's usually like this.
Okay, okay, I'm going to tell everyone where to go. Go to this website. It's Indie Law, INDIE, like indie films, indielaw.com, and just watch the video on the homepage of Joey Vitale, who is the founding partner. Joey's awesome. I was just talking to him yesterday. He's my spirit animal, and he signs all of his emails big smiles. He's all about, like, he just radiates positivity. So maybe he's not. Look, people want to work with people they like. And you watch that video of Joey Vitale and you're like, I want to work with this guy. I like him. So think of it that way. But I'll give you a name. This is a name that I love for an attorney. She specializes in cannabis, and her name is Lauren. And she calls herself the Fired Up Attorney. Like, that makes people smile, right? Maybe it's not fun in the sense that, haha. Well, it kind of is haha funny, but it's clever.
At fireduplawyer.com.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. So the Fired Up Lawyer works on cannabis law.
It does. And look, I'm telling you, any law that is practiced, like trademarks, right? So you could be, make your mark, or, something playing off of mark of distinction. Like, there's so many things. And when I say you could do with that, maybe you couldn't, but I could. My company could. Like we love that. That's what we thrive on, is just creating names that help express what people do. Like my firm, Eat My Words, we're named Eat My Words because we started out naming things that make people fat and drunk. And my claim to fame is that I named the Wendy's Baconator. But that name makes people smile. And look, if you can make somebody smile, you're golden, right? Then that's going to help them remember you. They're going to talk about like the Fired Up Attorney. I have told her name to so many different people. you want your name to get talked about. Imagine this, all of your attorneys go to trademark conferences. I mean, sorry, not trademark, go to conferences,
Yep.
right? So imagine having your name on your name badge, but instead of just repeating it with the name of your firm, if you had like with Lauren, Lauren, I'm spacing on her last name, the fired up attorney.
Vasquez. Mhm.
Right, Lauren Vasquez. Thank you. We worked with an attorney named Layla Benajamali, and she lived in San Francisco and specialized in startups and helping them get their foundational documents. And we named her firm Bedrock because Bedrock is the foundation, right, that everything is built upon. And she said once we changed, because she knew Layla Benajamali, using that as her firm name would be hard for people to spell, pronounce, and remember. And they would butcher it. Nobody wants that to happen. But with Bedrock, she said, obviously it's easy to spell and pronounce and expresses what she does. But she said once she changed the name, she started attracting the type of client she wanted to work with, and her revenue shot up.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot in the name. So when I think about it, one is a good name is memorable, right? For example, I am probably going to forget the name Lauren Vasquez in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I just looked at her website, and the fact that you told me that she's a fired up lawyer, I'm like, I'll probably remember fired up lawyer. I already don't remember the other guy's name, but I remember that you said his name is Indie Law, or his website's name is Indie Law.
Right. Yeah, Joy
So,
Vitale. Yeah.
so what does he do? Does he do like trademark for
He does
artists?
trademarks. Yeah.
Got it. So that makes sense, right? So a good name is memorable, a good name is profitable, and a good name is sellable.
Yes.
Whereas like last name and last name and last name and last name, probably not profitable, definitely not memorable because nobody's going to remember 4 last names in a row, or even 2, or probably not even 1, and it's not sellable. So it's worth investing some time, energy, and money into coming up with a great name.
Yeah.
How do people connect with you?
At eatmywords.com. And my email is alexandra@eatmywords.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And I was if anyone is considering coming up with a different name, or you want to run your current name and through this, I have a test, and you want to see how strong it is, just go to eatmywords.com and click on test a name, and you will run it through my Smile and Scratch test. That's a 12-point name evaluation filter. It's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, and lots of people use it every day to determine the strengths and weaknesses of their names.
That's awesome. I'm going to take you up on your offer and do it right now after we wrap up this podcast.
Okay,
Alexandra,
good.
this
Thank
was
you,
fascinating.
Sasha.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sasha. Bye.